Hi everyone. So today I'm very excited to share with you a book review on a book of poetry called Now is the Hour of Her Return. And it's a book of poems by Clark Strand. I was so excited when I first saw this book on Amazon Kindle, just based on the cover, which I'm just going to show right now. The cover and the title I found very intriguing. And I had been familiar with the work of Clark Strand for a while. He's written many books. The two books I have read, Waking Up to the Dark and The Way of the Rose, uh, are great books on the Divine Mother, great books on the practice of the Rosary. And Clark actually lived a few miles away from where I used to live in New York. So I had a very close affinity with him, and seeing that he had written a book on the goddess Kali, I was very excited to purchase it and read it. So much so that I pre-ordered it, and I have never pre-ordered anything in my life. I bought it having read no reviews, having read, there wasn't even a preview available at the time. And it was a 3 week wait. So once I got it, I devoured it and then I savored it. I spent 3 days really engrossed in this poetry. Now, I will say, when it comes to poetry, I had no real association with poetry being something that I was interested in. My association with poetry is just basically saccharine words that somebody very pretentious in literature class would talk about. Um, so much in terms of modern poetry. I had a great association with the poet saints, the poet saints of India, the Sufi poet saints. Their work really resonated with me. Um, and I was kind of nervous to read poetry on the Kindle. I kind of felt like those two things wouldn't work. However, um, I haven't read the book in physical pages, but I don't think I lost anything by reading it on the Kindle. So if that is something that might deter you, I would say just go for it. Don't mind, just read it. So, getting into the book, when I read the introduction, Clark makes a rather bold claim in the first. I'm saying Clark like I know, like we're BFFs. Clark Strand makes a rather bold claim, which I want to share. I gave my heart to Ma Kali, and she gave me the words for these poems. If that is a bold claim, it's a simple one. There was nothing more than that. I read these words and I was kind of like, was it okay? I mean, is it really just as plain as that? And as I read the introduction, I found myself wringing my eyebrows a little bit because scripturally and um, scholastically, he did make a lot of, I don't know if errors is the right word, but he didn't tell full truths in the way that he spoke about the goddess, uh, about the way that he spoke about her quote unquote origin story, which is a weird term because she's not a member of the X-Men, you know. And so I went into reading the poems with a little bit of trepidation. Um, Particularly, what stuck out is he describes this current age of humanity, which is called Kali Yuga, as Kali's Yuga. Um, that did strike me as odd because although the words share a similar sound and a similar root, they're actually different. Um, Kali, the goddess, is different than Kali, the demon. Um, and that's a pretty basic thing to know. Uh, so reading that introduction, I wasn't too impressed with it. And then I went into the poetry. And I'll say it plainly and honestly, the poems are good. And they're good in the sense that I'm nobody to be talking about anybody's poetic style or any of what makes a good or great poem technically. Um, they're good in the sense that they feel real. They cover a full journey of somebody's spiritual experience, spiritual relationship with the deity. And I think fundamentally, for anybody who has ever been on a spiritual path, um, they will find resonance with what Clark writes. And I deeply appreciate that in his work, he speaks about both the peaks and the valleys. I find sometimes when I'm reading modern day renditions of spiritual poetry, um, for example, this is not so much, you don't get this so much in Rumi, but modern renditions of Maharashtrian poet saints like Tukaram, it just seems like they just went from peak experience to peak experience to peak experience. They never had moments that were hard. They never went through emotions like doubt. They never went through the dark night of the soul. It was just one big spiritual party. And although that sounds very nice, I cannot say that's been my experience. And I think for anyone living life, um, it's never just good thing after good thing after good thing. Um, so it was very refreshing to read that. And very refreshing too that he writes about um, developing this relationship with the goddess, which, if I'm not mistaken, covers many, many years. So what you're getting, and really what I got, was um, a good synthesis of experience. And I think the mark of any great art form, whether it's poetry or painting or singing, is that it leaves the recipient inspired. I went into this not really liking poetry, but I felt inspired by Clark and his journey and also his honesty in writing. I wanted to break things apart about their accuracy, from a mythological point of view. I could have a field day. But as I read his poems, I actually found myself having this thought in my head that it doesn't actually matter scripturally, mythologically, culturally, historically, if he's being accurate. Because what does that matter in light of what I'm reading, which seems like somebody's real experience, somebody's nuts and bolts, honest sharing of a relationship with the divine. And I'm saying that also with a little bit of trepidation because it can sometimes come across as being very um, airy fairy and in the clouds and somewhat saccharine. And that's really not what I mean. I think fundamentally, belief aside, religion aside, all of the things aside, we all have a relationship with the divine, whether it's complex, whether it's simple, whether it's formal, whether it's clear or not. And that, I think, is a very common human experience. And, there's art about so many different elements of being human. It's really powerful to read somebody in modern day living in this world of iPhones and TikTok and whatever else being bold in talking about their relationship with the divine as a relationship with highs and lows, with breathtaking moments, both in positive and negative ways. Um, and that really, after I read the poems, and there's several poems that touched me. The one that really inspired me is called For She Is Seeking You, which I did a reading of and made a video, which I recommend that you have a look at. Um, so, in conclusion, I really do recommend this book to everyone. I think its message actually goes beyond its message, if that makes sense. As a book of poetry, as a book of devotional poetry, it can be analyzed. But I think its true message, for me at least, and which I'm hoping other people can share in, is be honest in your journey of spirituality. Be take inspiration from Clark, just in the way that he documented his own experiences, and he did it through poetry. You and I might have different ways, but I came away from the book thinking that it's so precious what he's been able to capture, and all of us should do that in our own way. Not to let this section of our lives go undocumented or unnoticed. And I think maybe that's the value, really, of art that has impact. So before I conclude, I do really want to shout out the artist who did the cover, which I'm going to put up right now. His name is Will Little, and I looked at this artwork and I was fascinated by it. It's completely off in terms of its symbolism, and it's, well, I shouldn't say it's off, but it's not traditional by any means. And clearly they have used new symbols, but I really love the fact that I can see that the artist had a connection to the work and has created this from what seems to be a place of deep understanding of the content. And also within the book, there are illustrations that go through the different book parts, all of which are unique, all of which are gorgeous, and beyond them being aesthetically appealing, I do think that they really reflect the meaning of the work. So Mr. Will Little, check him out. His website is amazing. Yeah, and with that, I'm going to conclude the video. I wish you all the best day. And here's to, yeah, I wish you all the best day.